Hey guys, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about logic apps and how we can use them to do cool stuff. Logic app is a pretty neat service in Azure, and you can use it for a wide range of stuff, right? So basically, most of the time, it's used to automate different type of tasks, workflows, or processes, right? But if you actually add a front end to it, you could make an application of it depending on what you want it to do. So basically, a logic app is it's there to automate things, right? And the good thing with logic apps in Azure is that they have a lot of connectors. Basically, you have a lot of integration. So if you want to send an email, you can do that. If you want to connect to Outlook, you can do that. If you want to connect to an SQL server, you can do that. There's a lot of connectors. So you can do a lot of things, a lot of logic with the logic app. Another cool thing with the Logic app is that it provides you with a pretty cool designer, so you can do all of this logic without any code. So the Logic app is called low code no code. Well, it's a low code no code service. You can apply code. There is no problem with it. But even if you don't know how to code, you can do some cool stuff. But of course, it's recommended to know how to code, right? And it's pretty scalable and it's pretty reliable because well it's cloud based, right? So it can scale per demand. So if you actually hit it off and it becomes a cool application, it has no problem scaling up, right? And you can also apply condition based logic, so either do this or that. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with logic app, and let's just get starting, right? So in order to create a logic app in Azure, we do as we do with everything else. So we search for logic app. So here we go, logic apps. And I will press add. So basically what we are going to do is we're going to create a logic app that goes through our resource group or all our resource groups within a subscription, and then does some kind of action. You can also send out an email. Another thing you can do with a logic app is, for example, as soon as somebody uploads a file to a storage account, you can make a copy of that file into a backup folder, for example. There's a lot of things you can do with logic apps. So I'm going to try to demonstrate some of the one of the triggers and some of the different kinds of actions you can do with the logic apps. So basically, the first thing we need a subscription. So I'm going to use a subscription that doesn't have a lot of stuff in it initially. So I'm gonna take this one, ESU 22. It has less people, and you kind of don't want to play around with the logic apps and do the stuff that I'm doing if you don't really know what you're doing, because well, if you let a logic app free and it can do some crazy stuff if you tell it to do crazy stuff, right? So be careful on how you design your logic app and what you choose to do with it. Anyways, I need a resource group, so I'm gonna create one. I'm gonna call this RK, and I'm gonna call it logic app something something. Sure. Then our logic app needs to have a name, so it needs to be a unique name. So let's call it logic demo logic or something like that. Should be unique, perfect. Then we're gonna go with workflow, and then we're gonna go region West Europe. There we go. And what we want is we want standard, yes, serverless. So basically, this is what we want. The plan type should be no consumption. Pay only as much as your workflow runs. Yeah, so consumption. So this is the one we want. So we are not enterprise currently. This application is not enterprise level, so we're just gonna go consumption. So basically, we're just paying for the requests we are using, right? And then we don't need zone redundancy; it's already disabled, and we can just press review and create. Now I have navigated to my resource group, and I'm waiting for it to finish. And there we see the logic app has finished creating. So we're going to visit it. Okay, so now we are in the logic app, and basically in this logic app we can have multiple logic apps running, right? So what we want to do is we want to go to logic app designer. This is where we actually create our let's call it application, right? This is where we create our logic app application. Well, app stands for application. Now, there are two different things to start off with a logic app. There is one thing called a trigger, and there is one thing called an action, right? The trigger is what is going to make this logic app run. When do you want to run this logic app? And there are many kinds of triggers. For example, you can make it like an API, so whenever somebody visits an URL, this logic app will trigger. That's one thing. Maybe whenever somebody makes a new tweet, this logic app will trigger, make a copy of it in a backup. I don't know, right? Whenever somebody uploads a file to OneDrive, you can make this logic app trigger, or to Gmail, or to many stuff, right? So basically, there are many triggers, and a trigger is what will start this logic app. What I am going to do right now, I'm going to take reoccurrence. So basically, it's going to be on a clock. So I'm going to set up a schedule, and then this application will run on the schedule. So we'll start off by pressing reoccurrence. There we go. So the first question is, how often do you want this logic app to run? So you have an interval, and then you have a frequency, right? So every 3 seconds, every 3 minutes, every 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, right? So you're setting up a schedule, how often you want this to trigger. Because again, the trigger mode I chose is reoccurrence, and this is a scheduled trigger, right? So let's say we want this to run every 10, let's say every 5 minutes, right? Do we need a parameter? We can just do start time, so it will start right now. Boom. There we go. And we don't need any parameter here, anything else. So we have a start time, and that's it. So we can add a step. So that's our trigger, right? So this will trigger every 5 minutes from when I've saved it, right? We can also run it manually by pressing run trigger up here. So either we can, put a reoccurrence, or run it manually by pressing here, right? Now we're going to create some actions. So what do you want to do when this logic app starts? Well, we can do a lot of things, but what we want to do is, well, we of course want to learn logic app, so we will play around with a couple of actions. So let's do a first thing. Let's just initialize a variable, right? To keep track of, for example, what resources are in a resource group, right? So I'm going to press this, choose an operation. So there was a plus sign, and then there are different kinds of operations, right? There are for you, so some recommended ones, but then you have all the actions, okay? So you need to wait for them to load in. There you go, all the actions. You can scroll through all the different actions, and let's just go through what there is. So there's things you can do with Adobe, more Adobe. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. Create a PDF, create an image, do something with this, do stuff with Asana. This is a project management tool. I've used it myself. Do stuff with Azure API management. Do stuff with Azure App Services, right? You see, there's a lot of things you can actually do here. So you can either scroll down, or you can play around and see what there is to do. But you shouldn't be doing this in our subscription. This is the problem with our subscription, because it's not only you in our subscription. So when you're playing around with this logic app in your subscription, it's going to play around with everything in this subscription. So with this logic app, I want you guys to use it in your own subscription. Do not use it under my subscriptions, okay? So when you do the logic app, you're supposed to be in your own subscription. Okay, so you can see we can start virtual machines. There's a lot of cool things you can do. So just sit here for 5 minutes, just scroll down, and you will see different kinds of things you can do. So basically, that's all the triggers. Then you have some built-in triggers, not that many, but these are actually built-in triggers, right? And here we have something, if I scroll down, we have something called initialize variable. And that's fitting. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to initialize a variable. So the first thing that will happen when this application runs, or when this logic app runs, is that a variable will be initialized, right? And let's give it so we need to give this variable a name, so let's call it list list of resources, resources. And since this is a list, then we need to change the type to an array, right? And we don't need an initial value, we're just gonna keep it as is. Okay, so now we have an variable which is called list of arrays. We're not putting anything in it. We will do it a bit later, right? But the next thing we want to do is we actually want to go through our a subscription or a resource group or something. We want to loop through an Azure resource, and there's an action for this called Azure Resource Manager. But in order for us to do that, in order for us to play around with other resources in Azure, and say hello, I am authorized to be here, we need to actually give this logic up an identity. So what you guys need to do is, first you can press save here, so we're going to save this logic app, and then you guys need to go to this identity tab over here. So in the identity tab, you need to put this on status on. What will happen is that this will now be a managed identity. So basically, it will be like a person or a unit is actually given access when we can give this identity roles, what it can do and what it cannot do. So what you want to do is you want to press on, and then you will get an ID here. Copy that ID. I will do that, but I won't show it on the recording. So it doesn't really matter if you guys see it, because I will anyways delete it. So what we want to do now is you can either copy, this, or you can press this Azure role assignment. What we're going to do is we're going to copy this. So now our logic app has an identity, and this is its ID. With this ID, we can connect to to other Azure resources, because this has different kind of roles if we give it permission, right? So now what I need to do is basically whatever resource I want this logic app to access, I need to go to that resource and give it permissions, give this one permissions. So I'm going to copy this this thingamajiggy, this object principal, and I'm going to go back to my go back home real fast, and I'm going to go to my subscription. So here you can see I am in my subscription. So this is my subscription. This resource is called a subscription. If you have troubles finding your subscription, you should just search for subscriptions and it will show up. And basically for you should have Azure for Students subscription, and that's the one you are going to play around with. Again, do not use any of the school's subscriptions for this, okay? So from here, you want to go to access control, and you want to give your object or your logic app access. So we'll press add role assignment, and you don't want to give it any privilege, just any type of access. You want to give it a very privileged kind of access, because you don't want this logic app, again, maybe you code something wrong, you don't want it to accidentally do something. So give it a role of what it needs. For example, I want this logic app to be able to stop and start virtual machines. That's what I want this logic app to do. I just decided. So it will stop and start virtual machines. And what it needs to do then, it needs to have the permissions to stop and start a virtual machine. And there is a role called virtual machine contributor, I think. So let's search virtual machine in this list over here. Here you go. Classic virtual machine contributor lets you manage classical virtual machines but not access them, and not the blah blah blah. I think you can here we go. It's the same. So let's just take this virtual machine contributor. I think this is enough to start and stop. We will notice that. Next thing we want to do is we want to press members. So who do we want to give this access to? So we're gonna press next, and then here, now it's not a user anymore, right? Because this is not a user, it's a managed identity. So we want to assign the role of virtual machine contributor to this identity. So we'll press managed identity and we'll press select members. And then here, let's see. Okay, so you don't even need the object ID. So basically this will find it. So basically you choose your subscription here, and then you choose the managed identity, and you will see your logic app over there. And then you can choose whatever logic app you have in this list. And then you press select and you press add. And now you can see I've added this logic app object ID to this list. Now I can press review and assign. And now this logic app has permissions of the same permissions as a virtual machine contributor into this subscription. So now that that's done, we can go back to our logic app. We go to our designer and we can see our logic app actually ran twice because we put it on a timer, right? Every 5 minutes, and it's been 10 minutes, and you can see it's actually ran 2 times. And you have succeeded because, well, basically there is no step to fail on, right? It starts and it creates a variable, and that's it, right? So right now there is nothing to fail on, so of course it won't fail. So let's go back to our designer anyway, and let's continue here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add another step. And what we want to do is we want to use, I think it's built in, and let's just search for it. It's called Azure Resource, maybe it's, let's go all, Azure Resource Manager. There we go. Here is Azure Resource Manager. We're going to press this one. Boom. And then there is some different kinds of actions we can do. Let's look them through. So we can create or update a resource group, delete a resource group, delete a template deployment, list template deployments, read a resource groups. And there's a lot of things you can do with this resource, with this action. Basically, what we want to do is we want to list. Here we go. List the resource group. So we want to list all the resource groups that's in this subscription. First of all, right? So we press that one. So then you have to choose your tenant, and you want to connect with managed identity. So here you will press connect with managed identity. And then you will give this connection a name. And the reason we will do this is because we're going to use this connection multiple times in this project, right? So let's call this Azure connection or something. Azure connection, sure. And we'll press create. There we go. And let's just see. Let's just try to run this and see what happens, right? So we'll press save, and then we'll actually run it. So we'll do a manual run. And when you manually run it like this, you actually get a nice little preview of the workflow when it's running, right? So you'll see all the steps actually finished. So pim pam pum, it went super duper fast. All the steps green check mark, and we can actually expand each step to see what to get more information of each step, right? And if you open the last one, you will actually see the data. So you will see the subscription name, and you will see the output. And I just scrolled all the way down, but basically you will see every resource groups that's in this subscription currently. And I can actually go check that real fast. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to go resource groups. I went to this ESU, and I see there are 3 resource group active here, and in this data here I counted also 3. Amazing. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to so that's amazing. So let's go back to our actually go back to our logic app designer again. And now we want to add another step. So now we have our list of resource group. So basically what I want to do now is I want to add them for each loop. So basically for every resource group I want to do something. So we're going to add on for each loop. So let's add a new step, and then we go to let's just search for we go all, and we do for each. So here we have a control one, and if I press the control one, I can see here we go, a for each loop. So under control, for each. So for each what? Well, if you press the output here, the logic app is actually smart because it sees the previous steps, and it sees that the previous steps have different outputs. For example, this one is an array, so you can actually choose that. So you can do for each value in this array, or this list of resource group. What this did is it also created a list, right? So what we want to do is for each element in this value, we want to do something. What do we want to do? Well, I don't really know what we want to do, right? Well, we wanted to see if we want to stop a virtual machine, right? So let's actually parse the JSON, right? So for every for each thingamajiggy, for each element in this value list, this is going to return a JSON file. Let's parse JSON. So let's do parse. Let's see, parse JSON. So this is super slow. It kind of helps if you know where they are, right? So we go data operations, and then here we go. We have parse JSON. Now what do we want to parse? So we want to parse. I suppose we want to do current item. So we'll do let's parse everything. Here's already parsed, right? Let's see what happens if we do if we just run this. So we'll do save, and we'll run. There we go. It finished running, and if you actually check here, you will see a parsed JSON file for each element. So in this here, I have 3 responses because it ran 3 times, because there are 3 elements in this, right? I don't want to expand it again because there are different things. Okay, so let's go back. So the parse JSON works. So now we have parsed this JSON. We know that we have some different things. What we now want to do is basically we want to filter, and we want to find everything. So we kind of need to check each resource group to see what each resource group contains, right? So let's do that as well.
Running.
So let's add an action. After we parse the JSON, we'll add a new action, and we'll go Azure Resource Manager again. There we go. Super slow. I need to stop in between these searches. There we go. It loaded. Now let's just go to list. We want a list. List resource providers. List resource provider, it could work because basically you will see what it has. But let me just see what other kinds of lists we can have. List subscription, list template deployments, list subscriptions. Let's take list resources by resource group. List resource provides. Let's use this one. Okay. So which subscription do we want to go through? We're gonna wait. It should find, yeah, it should find my thingamajiggy, right? And we're gonna add a parameter, right? So let's add. We need to add. Oh no, we can't use this because this does it on a subscription. So we're actually gonna delete this, and we're gonna add another step here, and we'll do the same thing. Azure Resource Manager. And let's again check what's in here. Let's take this one, read a resource group. We'll press this one. So which subscription? Yeah, this is perfect. We'll take our subscription here, and then which is the resource group, right? And we can do add a custom value because here we have the name, right? Because so this value, it has parts, some different things, and we have the name. So let's say we want to go which one, so we'll put name, right? We want to list all of them, so we don't have to do it manually, we'll do it dynamically. So now this will basically read all the resources is my thinking here, right? So let's try it. Let's run this trigger. Run. Did I not press save? It seems like it went away. Let's go back and check. It seems I forgot to save, so I need to do this again. But why not? It's good to practice. So we're gonna add a new action, and we're gonna do the Azure Resource Manager again. So let's go to all Azure Resource Manager, and then we're gonna go read a resource group, right? And then we're gonna do the subscription, which is this one we're currently using, right? We could also loop all like through that, and then we'll do name here. So enter a custom value, and we'll do name. I think name should be enough. Let's see how it goes. And then we'll do save. I think I pressed run trigger, but I didn't press save last time. So I'm gonna save it and I'm gonna run it. There we go. Hopefully everything goes as planned this time. So here we go. It seems like everything succeeded. Let me check the content of read a resource group. Perfect. It seems to do everything I wanted it to do. It reads all the resources within a resource group, and it does it all the time. Right now, I don't have a virtual machine, so what I need to do is I need to create a virtual machine within this resource group. So I'm going to do that real fast within this subscription. So I'm going to create a resource. I'm going to add a virtual machine. And then I'm going to put it here. I'm going to create a new resource group. I'm going to name this 123 remove me. It's funny, right? Like that. Okay. And we're gonna give it a name, remove me. I'm just giving it very quick things because again I just want the actual resource. I'm not going to use this virtual machine for anything, right? So I'm going to go standard here, and we'll do Ubuntu Shore. And I will take I will change the size. I will take a very cheap one. So let's take this one for $8 B1S, and then I'm going to do sure. I'm not going to connect to this. I'm just going to leave everything as default because again I'm not going to connect to it. So the reason I created this resource group is just to show you guys that I can play around with this resource group from my Logic app. Okay, I'm not going to use this virtual machine for anything. That's why I didn't care for anything about just the price, right? I cared about the price, but other than that I just review and create. And now in my resource group you can see I have 4 resources, right? Or in my subscription you can see I have 4 different kinds of resource group, and within one of these is actually a virtual machine. This one, 123 remove me. So now I'm going to go back to my Logic app. I'm going to go back to the designer mode, right? So now in our for each loop we have all the different things, right? And we kind of need to see the data, so we're actually going to look at the data one more time. So let's go to the overview and let's press one run. So we can press a previous run, and we can see the actual, how it went for it, the actual steps and so forth. So let's actually do this. So let's run this Logic app one more time because we just added a virtual machine, and I want to see how the data looks when there is a virtual machine. I want to see the name of the resource, etc., right? So I'm going to see, now it finished running. I'm going to open this read a resource and look at the data. So this action unfortunately didn't give us what we needed. Well, so what this read a resource group does, it will basically just read the resource group, what the name of the resource group is, but it won't list what's inside of the resource group. And that's what I want to do. I want to look inside of each resource group to figure out what's actually inside, right? So in order to, because I don't want to look around and there are so many different kinds of action and I want to keep this video short, I'm going to do this for the following. So I'm going to delete that and I'm going to add a new action. I'm going to find the correct one. One moment, please. Okay, there we go, guys. I finally find it. So it's list resource by resource group. So you put in the subscription and then you put in the custom value, right? And then you put name. And basically what this will do is if we check, if we do run trigger here, it will run through your subscription and go through all the resource groups, and for each resource group it will list all the resources inside. And basically what we want to do is we want to check if a resource group has a virtual machine inside of it. What we want to do is we want to go into this resource group and stop this virtual machine. So basically what we need to do is we need to add a filter, right? But let's first look at the data that was given back to us from this run. Okay, here we go. We can see the data. So this ran 4 times, as you can see. You see I have 4 documents. It's because I have 4 resource groups in this subscription, and I can also see all the data, all the resources. So basically what you will notice is that every resource has a name, it has a type, it has some different properties. And basically what we want, what we are looking for is the virtual machine type. So we need to create a filter where we look through each resource group, and if a resource group has a type of virtual machine, then we know there is a virtual machine here, and we can go into it and we can stop this virtual machine. So if you scroll down a bit, you will see the virtual machine, and it's type Microsoft slash compute slash virtual machine or something like that. I copy pasted it. So now I go back to my Logic App Designer here, and in my for each method, I now add a new action, right? And what I want to do here is I want to add a filter, right? So I'll add some kind of filter. Now let's actually do a condition, right? An if else. So let's add a condition. Let's see. So we'll do condition, we'll do control, and we'll just do a condition here, right? So we'll do condition. So here you can see I get like a condition, right? So if the condition is true, then this will happen. If the condition is false, then this will happen. So let's just go with true. So the first thing we need a value, right? So what value do we want? Well, we want the what we need is the type. Here we go. So if the type, right? Where did it go? Where did it go? Here. Why did it do like that? Okay, so it kind of zooms out a lot, so I'm going to make it smaller. So basically, if the type is equal to the value, and I copy pasted it, right? So Microsoft.compute.virtual machines, then basically, what do I want to do? So if this is true, what do I want to do? Well, here I can go to add an action, right? And I'll do the Azure Resource Manager again, and now I'll take update or stop a virtual machine. I think there was something called let's see, virtual. Let's see if anything comes up. Let me just scroll down the list here again. So I couldn't find what I was looking for in the Azure Resource Manager, so basically I would just went back and I just typed stopped virtual, and here we see stopped virtual machine, right? So power off virtual machine. So if you don't know what you're looking for, but you have an idea of what you want, you can just try to search for it, and it most likely will come up, right? So let's take power off virtual machine. So we press this power off virtual machine, and then we need to connect with managed identity again, because now we're doing something else. So we'll connect with managed identity, and the same thing is we need to create a name for this connection. We call it VM connection, and we'll press create. So now we need to add some different things, and we have all of this data we do actually have, right? So I'm going to show you guys. So again, all this data is available, right? Because we got it from the different kinds of steps. So we just need to localize that data. So when we take power of virtual machine, the first thing is we need to say in which resource group do we want to close this virtual machine. Well, we know what resource group it is because we're kind of in a condition here, right? So basically, whatever this is equal to, right? Wherever we are currently. So if you press this resource group here, we can now see that we need a name. So the name of resource group, and you can actually search for name, right? And you will see you have 3 different kinds of name. So you have the name of the resource, which is not what we want. We want the name of the resource group. And the name of the resource group, we get it from the list of resources, right? So you can just press it and it will be that name. And then what we want to do is we want to also have the name of the virtual machine, the resource itself. And if we press here and then we search for name again, then we have the name of the actual virtual machine. So we'll press this, and now let's try. So it says name and name, but it's actually two different variables. So let's save this. Well, before I save it, I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm just going to make sure that the virtual machine currently is actually up and running. So I just verified the virtual machine is actually running, and hopefully this will power off that virtual machine. Let's save and let's try it out. Save and run. And you can see that this steps now takes a bit longer because it actually takes time to power off a virtual machine, etc. So not all steps are instantly like we see in here, but it seems like everything worked. And we can check the actual data here. So we open up for each two. Amazing. And now I went back to my resource group and I can see, or to my virtual machine, and I can see that the virtual machine is actually stopped, because if it wasn't stopped, then this start button wouldn't be shining up. It would be gray. You see, as soon as you press that button, it will now kind of turn off, right, in a bit, because it's already started. So that's great news. You see, you cannot start it anymore. So that's great news. Our logic app and everything with our logic app actually works as planned. So you see, you can do very cool stuff with the logic app, and there's more to this that you can actually do. This was just me showing off a couple of easy things to play around with using a logic app. Um, but feel free to experiment, to play around, send an email, make a Slack integration, do something with GitHub, do something with the Hotspot request. But please, when you are using Logic apps, use your own subscription, because again, there's a lot of things you can play around with the Logic app, and I don't want you to play around with everything. So I hope you guys learned something in this video. If you did, please leave a like, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye, guys.